Hi, my name is Daryl Caballas. I'm the VP of Operations here at PageDNA. I've been hearing from a lot of you with suggestions for improving PageDNA's reports, and I'd like to talk a little bit today about how you can use Crystal Reports to do just that. First, a little bit about Crystal Reports. Crystal Reports is a separate application that you purchase from SAP. It's been around for years and has become the industry standard for creating reports. Currently, the one-time license for Crystal Reports is $495, and they occasionally offer upgrades every 3 to 4 years. The most recent upgrade is from the 2016 version to the 2020 version. It costs $295 to give you some idea of the cost to keep this software up to date. I'm still using the 2016 version, and it still works just fine for my purposes. SAP also offers a free Crystal Reports viewer that allows reports to be distributed and viewed by users who don't necessarily need to create or modify them. On a technical note, Crystal Reports is a program that runs only on PC. Since I'm actually using a Mac, you may notice that I'm using VMware Fusion to emulate a PC. That allows me to run Crystal Reports on my Mac. So let's jump in. I'd like to start with a look at a report that I ran in the hub. This is a PageDNA stock inventory report, and you can see it shows the field names and all the records associated with this particular organization, which I've named PageDNA Financial. So we're going to take this raw Excel file that was generated, and we're going to bring that into Crystal Reports and use it to add some functionality and make the report look much better. So let's start with Crystal Reports, which I've installed on my computer now, and let's start with a blank report. And what we need to do is connect to our data source. So I'm going to create a new connection. It says make new connection. For database name, I'm going to use the ellipsis over here on the right, and I'm going to navigate to my data source, which I actually have in a folder called Crystal Reports in Data. And this is the inventory report that we just looked at in Excel. So I want to use that as my database and my database type. Since it's an XLS file, I'm going to use Excel 5.0 for my type. And then just click Finish. And you can see now if I open up that connection, I can choose my inventory file, and I can move that over to the Selected Tables tab and click OK. So now you can see the blank design panel in Crystal Reports. Also, it's opened the Field Explorer that shows me my database fields in my Excel file. So if I expand that, you can see all the field names that came from my Excel file. There are also some special fields. These are things like the date the report was run, the page numbers, things like that that are part of Crystal Reports natively. So let's go ahead and start building our report. You notice my design panel has a report header that appears only on the first page of the report, the page header that appears on every page, the details, which are all my records, the report footer that appears on the last page of the report, and the page footer that appears at the bottom of every page of my report. So let's start bringing in some of the data from that Excel file. So it's an inventory report, so I want to bring over the tag name. I'm going to add that to the details section. It also added a column header to the page header section, and we'll see what that looks like here in just a second. I'm also going to bring over the long name and the on-hand quantity and the unit code. Let's make a little more room here for the unit code. by dragging over the on hand a bit. And we'll fit all the unit code on there. Okay, so now we've got some data into Crystal reports from our Excel file. So let's go to View and preview a sample of that data. And I'll just take a look at the first 100 records so we can see what this report looks like in Crystal reports. And so here's the data now as it exists in Crystal reports. So let's go ahead and start working with this data and make this report look a little better. I'll go back to my Design tab. You can see now I have a Preview tab and a Design tab. And I can switch back and forth as I'm working. So this tab column is a little wider than it needs to be, so I'm going to go ahead and narrow that up by grabbing the corner and just dragging it over. Unit tab is also, unit code is also longer than I'd like it to be, so I'm going to grab the corner, the bottom corner of that, and drag it over. It's a little tricky to get a hold of that bottom corner, but got it there. I'm also going to drag that over to the far right hand side. And notice by doing it in the details section, it also drags the column header over with it. For on-hand quantity, I'm just going to drag that over to the right, next to the unit code. And then the long name, since as the name implies, it is a long name. First I'm going to drag it to the right, to the left, next to the tag. And then I'm going to lengthen that field so we can see the full long name. So let's take a look at that in our preview. And you can see it already looks better. So next, let's create some headers and footers for this report and do some basic formatting. So this header, I want to make it taller so I can add some information to it. So let's grab, if I can do this very carefully, there we go. Make that page header section bigger. I also want to drag these column headers back down to the bottom of that section. So I'm going to multi-select by holding Shift and selecting each one of these column headers. Then I can drag them as a unit down to the bottom of my report header section. So I've done that here. While we're at it, let's go ahead and make all of those bold. So I'm going to select bold from my formatting, and there all my columns are bold. Now I'm going to go back to my Field Explorer, and in the database fields, I'm going to drag over client name. Let's go ahead and do that. Make that a little bigger so we can have room to make that typeface bigger. And I'm going to make this 18 point and make it bold. Under that, there's a special field called report title. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that over, add it under client name, and let's make that 14 point. Okay, let's also add a logo. So I'm going to go to Insert, Picture, and I'm going to again go to my Crystal Reports folder, and I've got an image in there, PageDNA logo. So I'll open that up. And I'm going to drop in my PageDNA logo here. And let's just make that a little smaller so I'm not covering up my field names. If I hold the Shift key, it keeps the proportions correct. Oops, looks like it jumped into my report header, so let's put that back down where it belongs. It's being a little stubborn, but we'll get it there. There we go. And let's snug up this report header again, so it's not taking up room. There we go. Let's add a couple more special fields. Let's say we want to add some page numbers. I'm going to go to the special fields in the Field Explorer, and I'm going to drag that up to the upper right corner of my header. And also want that to be over on the left side, so I'm going to go to the formatting bar here and choose Align Right. And let's also add the date and time this was printed. So under my special fields, I'll go to Print Date, and I'm going to put that in the page footer along with the print time. So you can see you've got a lot of fields that you can add to your report. One last thing I'm going to do is report title. That actually comes from the summary information about this report. So I go to File, and I go to Summary Info. And here's where you can fill out a lot of these special fields. But under Title, I'm just going to put Inventory Report. And click OK. So now let's take a look at our preview. And you can see we've got a lot nicer looking report. It tells me this is page number 1 of 3. And I can toggle through the other pages. Here's page 2 of 3, page 3 of 3. Nothing on that one. Let's go ahead and scroll to the bottom of the first page, and we should see our print date and time. So we've got a pretty nice looking report there. Let's do some other things that make this a little more functional. One thing I want to do is this on-hand amount. I want to make that without the 2 decimal places. And I also want to sort this so that I can look up by long name. So let's go ahead and do that. Go back to our design. First thing I notice is that my logo is actually covering up my column name, so let's fix that. Let's make this logo smaller. Oops, let's redo that. If I hold down the Shift key, it will keep the proportion of my logo. There we go, and we've uncovered our column names. So our on-hand amount, let's click on that and do a control click and go to Format Field. And so for number format, I want no decimal places, and I also want to use a comma if it's more than 1,000. And it'll show negative numbers with a minus. I have the option of showing negative numbers in parentheses. So we've made that change. And then we want to do a sort. So let's go to our sort expert right there. And I want to sort this on long name. So I add that to my sort field and click OK. So now let's take a look at our preview. So there we have it. Our on-hand quantity now shows as whole numbers with a comma separator for anything over 1,000. And my list is now sorted alphabetically. So there's a quick tutorial on how you can use Crystal reports with PageDNA data to improve the look and functionality of your reports. Crystal Reports is a very powerful tool. You can do groupings, you can do summaries by groups, you can actually do formulas where you can add two fields together and create a new column that has the sum of two columns or the average, a lot of different mathematical operators you can use there. So very powerful tool. I hope that you found this tutorial useful. Thank you and have a great day.